Resident Evil, a franchise that literally defines survival horror. We all know the masterpieces: Resident Evil 2, the legendary Resident Evil 4, even the fantastic remakes we've gotten over the years. But today, we need to talk about the black sheep. No, not Resident Evil 6, I'm talking about the game that actively tries to make you miserable, while pretending to be a classic survival horror experience. I'm talking about Resident Evil 0. Released in 2002 for the GameCube, Resident Evil 0 was supposed to be the grand prequel. It promised to show us how the nightmare began, introducing a unique dual character mechanic. On paper, it sounded amazing, right? But in reality, it is a masterclass in terrible game design. It takes everything that made classic Resident Evil fun and replaces it with pure, unadulterated tediousness. The biggest sin this game commits is the inventory system. In every classic Resident Evil game, you have item boxes. You find a key, you use it, you store your extra ammo in the box. And that ammo is now accessible from any other box in the game. It is a staple of the genre. It works, it keeps the pacing moving. But Capcom's brilliant idea for Resident Evil 0 was, hey, what if we just remove the item boxes entirely? Instead of boxes, you drop items directly onto the floor. Sounds realistic, right? Sure, but this is a video game. And in this game, your characters only have 6 inventory slots each. 6. And guess what? Powerful weapons like the shotgun or the grenade launcher take up 2 slots. So, if Rebecca carries a shotgun and some ammo, she has no almost room for healing items or key objects. What does this mean in practice? It means you will spend 50% of your playtime running back and forth through cleared rooms, picking up a hook shot, carrying it across the map, dropping your gun to use the hook shot, going back to get your gun. It is not challenging. It is just a massive waste of human life and time. It turns a survival horror game into a tedious moving simulator. The main gimmick of the game is that you control 2 characters, Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen. You can swap between them with the press of a button, or let the AI control the other one. Now, I like a good co-op mechanic when it's done right, but here, the AI is functionally brain dead. You have 2 settings for your partner, attack or idle. If you leave them on attack, they will happily shoot walls or waste your precious shotgun ammo on a single, harmless zombie. If you leave them on idle, they will stand there like an idiot and get eaten alive while you're trying to aim in another direction. And about the character balance, Billy is a tank. He can take a lot of damage and he can push heavy objects. Rebecca is weak, dies in a few hits, but she's the only one who can mix herbs. Why? Why can't a highly trained former military criminal like Billy figure out how to mix a green herb with a red herb? This forces you into a specific playstyle where Billy tanks everything and Rebecca acts as a glorified walking backpack who occasionally mixes medicine. It completely kills the atmosphere when you're constantly babysitting a brain-dead AI. Resident Evil is famous for iconic monsters. The Lickers, the Nemesis, the Hunters. What do we get in Resident Evil 0? Is giant bugs, giant centipedes, giant frogs, and monkeys. Yes, monkeys, I'm not joking. One of the most frustrating enemies in the game is the Eliminators, zombie monkeys. They are small, they move incredibly fast, the fixed camera angles make them almost impossible to see, and they stun lock you to death. You will enter a room, a monkey will jump on you, you get staggered, and before your character can even raise their gun, it hits you again. It is incredibly cheap design. And then there is the Plague Crawler. just a giant insect. It's just ugly and boring. The only creative enemy is the leech zombie, which has cool music, but even they are just bullet sponges that require you to spam fire bottles, because shooting them normally makes them explode and damage you anyway. It feels like Capcom ran out of ideas and just looked at a backyard for inspiration. I love Resident Evil lore. It's cheesy, but it usually works. Resident Evil 0 actively damaged the lore of the first game. The main villain is James Marcus, one of the founders of Umbrella, but instead of being a terrifying, shot-of-the-villain corporate monster, he looks like a Final Fantasy villain with long hair, wearing robe, controlling leeches with the power of his voice. The whole plot is supposed to explain the T-Virus outbreak, but it just makes the universe feels goofy. Furthermore, Rebecca goes through absolute hell in this game. She fights giant monsters, saves a military convict, defeats a superhuman leech monster, and then walks straight into the Resident Evil 1 mansion, where she suddenly acts like a helpless, terrified rookie who doesn't know what a zombie is when Chris finds her. The continuity is completely broken. My least favorite thing about this game is hookshot. Very early in the game, on the train you find an item called the hookshot. It takes up 2 inventory slots, you use it once, and then the game lets you drop it. Naturally, you drop it because you need space. But Resident Evil 0 loves to play a disgusting joke on the player. 2 hours later, in a completely different area, you need the hookshot. Guess what you're doing for the next 15 minutes? You're walking back through empty hallways, sitting through door-opening animations, just to pick up a heavy piece of metal, walk all the way back, use it for 5 seconds, and drop it again. This isn't gameplay, this is artificial game lengthening at its absolute worst. It completely destroys any tension or horror the game managed to build. Look, I will give credit where it's due. Visually, Resident Evil 0 is stunning. The pre-rendered backgrounds are some of the best Capcom ever made. The lightning, the rain effects on the Ecliptic Express train, the texture, it looks beautiful even today in the HD remaster. The atmosphere in the first 1 hour on the train is actually fantastic, but a game cannot survive on graphics alone. Resident Evil 0 is a chore. It takes the survival horror elements of resource management and twists them into a frustrating, tedious micromanagement simulator. The story is a mess, the inventory system is a crime against humanity, and the enemy design is uninspired. If you're a hardcore fan who wants to experience every game in the franchise, play it at once on easy mode just to see the environments. But if you're looking for a great classic survival horror experience, skip this one. Stick to the Resident Evil 1 remake, because Resident Evil 0 is, without a doubt, the most frustrating, poorly designed mainline Resident Evil game ever made.